The Yakuza series has always been something I've been deeply interested in. It's been compared to Grand Theft Auto, Saints Row, and even Sleeping Dogs, so I want to see if those comparisons even make sense. From clips of the main character singing karaoke, to his crazy bombastic fighting style, the hardcore grittiness of the storyline, and whatever this is, this game looks like it's going to be a hell of a ride. I've also always loved Japan, having been there before, and would love to visit again. But this is the closest I'm gonna get to being in Japan again at this point. I can't wait to experience this with you all, so let's get right into it. We begin with our main character, Kiryu Kazuma, beating the ever-living stuffing out of a man in an empty lot. Despite the man's desperate pleas for Kiryu to stop, he doesn't pull any punches. Wait a second, how old is Kiryu? He doesn't look that young. Let's see. Bro's 20 years old. Now, dude's way too intimidating for that age. I thought he'd at least be like 25 or 26. Whatever, we're getting sidetracked. Where were we? He takes some money off of the man and leaves. We then cut to the hustle and bustle of Kamurocho in the year of 1988. Some drunks try to give Kiryu trouble, but they notice some blood on his face and back off, like any sane person would. Kiryu meets up with a loan shark and gives him the money he collected earlier, apologizing for not giving it to him in an envelope. It's revealed in this scene that Kiryu is a part of the Dojima family. For those who don't know, Yakuza families are led by a patriarch, with captains and lieutenants below them, and so on. The loan shark offers Kiryu a job, working for him directly, but Kiryu politely declines, explaining that he's committed to being a Yakuza. We then cut to a musically intense montage of Kamurocho's nightlife, which is supposedly one of the red light districts of Japan, full of soaplands, Yakuza, karaoke, bars, hookers, and more. Thus begins Chapter 1 of Yakuza 0, Bound by Oath. The chapter starts off with Kiryu getting paged by his friend Nishiki. I feel way too young for this. I remember stuff like VHS, flip phones, and landlines, but I've never seen a pager in real life before. I didn't realize you had to use codes back then. Like, how does 724106 translate to what you up to? Anyway, the game hits us with our first objective. Find Nishikiyama. I hope I said that right. We start by walking through the streets of Kamurocho, and Kiryu notices some thugs trying to shake down some poor soul in an alleyway. Kiryu approaches them and expresses that his Yakuza family runs this part of town, but they ignore him and gang up on him. The game takes its chance to run you through the tutorial. Combat works as follows. Yellow bar, I don't know, it looks kinda orange to me, is your health bar. In classic video game fashion, taking damage from attacks lowers your health bar, and if it gets empty, that's game over. Landing hits on enemies obviously lowers their health. There's a little more to combat in this game, but we'll cover that later. With the thugs taught a proper lesson, Nishikiyama, the absolute styling Giga Chad. I mean, my goodness, look at that suit. Where was I? Oh, yeah, so Nishiki appears, expressing how Kiryu went all out as usual, failing to hold back. He tells Kiryu he needs to take care of himself more, and the two head out to drink. Not until the victim awkwardly thanks them, probably intimidated by their mere presence. Honestly, don't blame him. The two walk off and discuss Kiryu's fashion, expressing the importance of a Yakuza's image, as well as mentioning Kazuma, an apparent important figure in both of their lives. After the conversation, we begin a totally enjoyable follow Nishiki mission. I don't really need to explain that this goes on kinda slowly and uneventfully. Well, mostly. Eventually, the two of them run into some drunks arguing, clearly about to start a fight. Like any good Samaritan, coming across two people about to tear each other apart, Kiryu does the obvious. He decides to beat them both into sobering up. The game throws us into another fight, and we learn about the heat gauge, which is 3 levels, indicated by the 3 bars below the yellow, totally not orange, health bar. Kiryu develops a blue aura around him as his heat level rises, allowing him to perform something called heat actions, which are some of the most satisfying parts of combat in this game. Why? Well, yeah, feels really nice. Also, I forgot to mention that Kiryu somehow beats the money out of people too. We end the fight by finishing them off with a trash can, and find out that they were watching music videos and started arguing about idols of all things. Kiryu and Nishiki go on their way, but not before some guy named Aging Foreigner approaches Kiryu, telling him to literally invest in himself. And my goodness, his voice is majestic and soothing, and no, it's really not. But yeah, the skill tree, or circle, whatever you want to call it, in this game doesn't use points. Instead, any money you earn from fights and other sources can be used to invest in Kiryu's upgrades. Kiryu just seems confused, but shrugs it off and returns to following Nishiki. As they continue to walk, two girls approach Nishiki. He greets them cheerfully and tells them he'll be stopping by later that night at their club. He hands them around 40,000 yen, which is pretty much $280 right now, but that's probably worth a lot more back in 1988. Kiryu thinks his friend was played just now, but Nishiki explains that for Yakuza, maintaining a good relationship with some girls is important. You see, guys ranking higher than them in the family aren't usually popular with girls, due to their intimidating aura. So if someone approaches them with girls, that often makes them memorable. After that, they finally reach the bar, and my god, is that bartender okay? He looks like he's having an existential crisis back there. I'm praying for you, buddy. The two men reminisce on how they got into the Yakuza business, following their idol, Kazuma. And after a few more drinks, they decide to let loose and get right into the heart of what it means to be Yakuza. Real grueling, gory, and intense jobs. Stuff that will make any normal person shiver in fear. They jump right into karaoke. That's exactly what I was talking about. This game is amazing. After the song is done, they agree to go, oh my god, this again. They agree to go get some food. Once they finish their food, they chat some more and end up hearing from the news that someone was murdered the night before in a quiet part of Kamurocho. Eventually, the victim's details are released, and Kiryu realizes that the victim was the person he roughed up and collected a debt from last night, leaving him confused since all he did was beat him up, not kill him. Nishiki immediately questions Kiryu, asking what he was thinking since it was only supposed to be a debt collection job. Kiryu then receives a pager alert from HQ, instantly calling him there. Nishiki expresses his worries that this is going to look bad on Kazuma, the man who brought them into the Dojima family in the first place, explaining that other higher-ups will try to use Kiryu's mistake to blame Kazuma for bringing him into the family, forcing him to take responsibility for Kiryu's actions. Nishiki also mentions the theory that Kuze, one of the Dojima family lieutenants, ratted out Kazuma's gambling hall business, which got him thrown in jail, and is after Kazuma's position. Kiryu leaves the restaurant, and we're then tasked with our hardest objective yet. So usually payphones are how you save the game, but this time it's so that Kiryu can contact Dojima HQ. My favorite character, guy on phone duty, answers the phone, mentioning that Kuze is calling Kiryu to HQ and that all three family lieutenants are at HQ waiting for him. After taking a taxi to HQ, Kiryu is led inside to a room with all three of his bosses standing there menacingly. They're all grizzled, tough-looking men who have clearly seen something, and the intensity of the situation is made even heavier. I'll just let their interests play out normally. I cannot appraise their voice actors enough for their intimidating personas.
Oh, ずいぶん待たしてくれるじゃねえか。偉くなったもんだな。おう、キリュウ。
申し訳ありません。クゼの兄貴。
こんな昼間から堂島組の幹部がガン首揃えてお前を呼び出した理由わかるよな。
カムロ町で見つかった死体の件ですが。
やっぱりてめえか。こりゃゴルどころじゃなくなっちまったな。なあ、クゼの兄貴。
They end up interrogating Kiryu, questioning why he chose that specific place to do the hit. And Kuze explains that the lot the victim died in is a valuable lot that the lieutenants have been fighting over to win for the Dojima family. It's also revealed that the victim died from a gunshot wound, which leads Kiryu to mention that he doesn't even have a gun, trying to prove his innocence. One of the lieutenants, Keiji Shibusawa, I think I said that right, then asks if he thinks he's been framed. Kiryu recalls the loan shark and plans to confront him after the meeting. Kiryu leaves HQ, running into the aging foreigner and his friend Tamuji. We find that he owes some money to a guy and that he needs some help dealing with them. The two debt collectors pop up and they make a deal to fight Bruno, the big beefy boy right there, and settle the debt depending on the winner. First to try is Tamuji, who impresses Kiryu with his surprisingly agile fighting style, leading him to remark, apparently, Kiryu memorized the fighting style immediately because once it's our turn to fight Bruno, we immediately can use the new rush style. Oh my god, is this style fun to use. Upon winning the fight, Kiryu learns that these guys work for Toko Credit, the loan shark's company, so Kiryu decides to head over there immediately. On the way, we make a quick detour to stop another mugging, teaching them a gentle lesson. Receive an energy drink for our efforts, and make it to the Toko Credit building. Upon entering the building, we are greeted with some Yakuza who try to stop us, but in basic Kiryu fashion, we just tell them no and force our way past them. We blow past all the guards and make it to the president's office where we confront him. We find out that the president was just following orders, mentioning that his employer just told him to make sure the collection takes place in that empty lot. As he's about to tell us who his employer was, Kuze appears and shuts him up, implying that Kuze was the one who framed Kiryu. He sits him down and explains his supposed worries that Kazuma brainwashed Kiryu and Nishiki into being loyal to him. He offers a deal, spying Kazuma for him, and he'll secure a comfortable position for Kiryu in the future of the family. Kiryu, naturally, tells him to go to hell, and that he doesn't know Kazuma like he does. He warns Kiryu that he isn't ready to become his enemy, to which Kiryu responds that he wouldn't be able to call himself a Yakuza if he wasn't already prepared. Kiryu leaves the building to go and update Nishiki on the situation. We're then tasked with going to the Kazuma family office. On the way, we fight a few delinquents, but not much else happens. We're introduced to Kashiwagi, who is slurping up a hell of a storm. Kashiwagi pretty much guessed the whole situation, entirely unsurprised, telling Kiryu to tell him everything Kuze said to him. Kashiwagi then expresses his concerns that Kiryu was framed so that Kazuma would look bad, and ended up taking all the heat for his mistake. With Kazuma's position on the line, Kiryu makes the decision to leave the family, which angers Kashiwagi due to the seriousness of breaking your oath. Leaving the Yakuza isn't as simple as putting in your 2 weeks at a normal job. Most don't make it out in one piece, or even alive. Kiryu plans to leave and investigate the case as a civilian. Kashiwagi and Nishiki are angered by this, but only because they seem to be worried about what'll happen to him. Kiryu then asks Nishiki to give him a ride to HQ. While they're in the car, they reminisce about the day Kazuma decided to let them join the Yakuza. And I don't think my commentary can do this scene any justice for Kiryu's passion, so I'll just play this cutscene out.
なんでだよおやつ。俺らの道は俺らが自分で決める。今まで育ててもらった恩とは別の話だ。今さら善人ぶんなよ。あんたもヤクザなんだろ。だったら俺らがヤクザになるのを止める資格なんてねえじゃねえか。キリュウ、俺たちはずっとあんたの背中を見て育ったんだ。いい車乗って肩で風切って周りの人間に頭下げられて、そういう人間になりてえって俺たちがそう思っちゃいけねえのかよ。施設上がりの人間は夢を見ることも許されねえってのか。
They eventually reach HQ, where Kiryu tells the guard that he's there to end his oath. He steps out alone, determined, and then reassures Nishiki that he'll make it work. Kiryu is led into HQ, where Kuze is waiting for him. Upon hearing that Kiryu is there to end his oath, he stops him from seeing Dojima, reprimanding him for trying to end his oath with nothing to give in return. He gives Kiryu one last chance to work for him, which he ignores, asking to see the boss once again. He expels Kiryu from the family and commands his underling, Yoneda, to take care of Kiryu, which, well, doesn't go well. After rampaging through all of Kuze's men, Kiryu finds him sitting menacingly, waiting for him. Kuze congratulates his martial prowess, revealing his tattoos, which, after some research, I found his back tattoo is of Enma, the judge and ruler of hell, in Japanese folklore. This fight with Kuze was intense. Like, this man rocked my dome a few times and ate so many hits from me. Eventually, though, after downing multiple energy drinks to get back some health, and after many beatdowns, I finally triumphed, folding him in the corner. Kuze is definitely salty he lost, even asking for help from his fellow lieutenants once they enter the room. However,
Oyashi.
堂島組長
Dojima himself enters the room, chastising him for not honoring a one-on-one duel. Dojima acknowledges Kiryu and hears him out as Kiryu tells him his side, asking him to expel him from the family. Kuze tries to shut him up, telling the boss that he'll take care of Kiryu himself. But Dojima reminds him that Kuze already expelled him, questioning if he's willing to kill a civilian. Dojima is disappointed that he jumped the gun and expelled Kiryu without his permission, forcing him to take accountability for his presumptuousness, and had him cut off his left pinky finger to repent. He then hobbles out, humiliated. Dojima questions Kiryu on why he'd go to so much trouble to get kicked out, and explains that until there's proof, they will have to cast the blame on Kazuma. Dojima and the rest of the crew leave for dinner, as Kiryu states that he'll catch the killer to prove his and Kazuma's innocence. We skip ahead to 11:28 p.m. as Kiryu falls to his knees, desperate and lost, when a mysterious man approaches him, introducing himself as Tachibana, asking for some of his time. Well, that concludes chapter 1. I wonder what this Tachibana guy wants, but we'll have to see on the next chapter. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.